Is going on, everybody? What is going on, the Catch fam? It is Steven here, and in today's video, we are going to be breaking down the must-start kickers for your fantasy football teams going into Week 17. Certainly hope everybody out there had a great Christmas and great holiday season and are getting ready for a great New Year's Eve celebration to kick off 2023. But in the meantime, we got to lock down. We got to get focused. We got to get focused on winning the championship this week for most of you out there who have your championships in Week 17. And if you are not already a part of the Catch fam, certainly encourage you to hit that subscribe button, join the best community in all of fantasy football. And if you do enjoy this video or any of the other videos we put out there, really appreciate if you hit that like button too. But most importantly, get in the comments and let me know what your questions are, what your concerns are, so we can help set up your team this weekend, regardless of position: kicker, defense, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. But with all that said, let's get into it. Let's get into the must-start kickers. Up at number one, we're going with the old vet. We're going with Matt Prater for the Arizona Cardinals, who has been on a really, really strong pace since Kyler Murray has gone down with the injury and Trace McSorley has taken over. Trace McSorley has moved this ball enough to get it into field goal range. I mean, they kept in the game with Tampa Bay. This team is not great on offense. This team is not sexy on offense, but they have been able to do enough to make Matt Prater look not just good, but extremely good at the kicker position these past couple weeks. 14 fantasy points each week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Denver Broncos. He has hit 2 50-plus yard field goals in both of those games. That is very, very close to what this guy has done his entire career. He's very good from hitting it deep. He is known for that, dating back to even in Detroit. This guy is very widely available. Under 10% rostered, 6% rostered right now. Not very often you're going to see a must-start kicker in that kind of range. But I think if you look at the numbers, you look at the trends, you look at the opportunity against the Atlanta Falcons, this is about as juicy as you can get. And I think that this is an absolute must-start opportunity. And even on the other side of the ball, right, if you're making the argument, hey, I don't think the Cardinals are going to win this game. Okay, well, Matt Prater can still have a good game. But Younghoe Koo for the Falcons, I think, can also have himself a good game for the Falcons as well. If you already are rostering Younghoe Koo, or if you believe in Younghoe Koo a little bit more than Matt Prater, I personally do have a little bit more trust in the Prater this week. But either way, guys, this is a locked and loaded must-start opportunity, and I love it. It's dome-controlled weather, too. The weather has been majorly impacting kickers this season, and I want to stay away from it. So Matt Prater against the Falcons, I think he is a must-start. Up at number two, Tyler Bass, just under 50% rostered. Very, very popular kicker through the majority of kind of fantasy seasons over the past couple of years because it's been tied to the hip of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. But we have seen that dip down week by week, and now that he is under 50% rostered, I think he's going to be lined up for a good opportunity against the Cincinnati Bengals, who are really good in terms of an opportunity for the kicker position. This game should see a lot of points on the board. This game should see a lot of opportunities for both kickers, but I think Tyler Bass is in line for a really good opportunity this week. Listen, over the past month, he has had a high of 9 fantasy points, and he has had a low of 1 fantasy point last week against the Chicago Bears. But I think this week is different. I think the matchup is going to get the best out of him. We have seen the Bills' offense kind of slow down a little bit. Stephon Diggs has kind of gone MIA a little bit. I think they are going to need every single point. This game matters a ton for the playoff standings. The Bengals are right there in that mix too. The Bills obviously really want to take home field advantage because they're scared of the Chiefs, and I think you got to be scared of the Bengals too, taking that home field court as well. So this game, a lot on the line. I think a lot of opportunity for points in this game and a lot of opportunities for field goals, and Tyler Bass can hit it all over the yard. This is one of the best kickers in the league, and that is why he's the number 5 kicker on the season. Go ahead, locked and loaded. Tyler Bass, man, the Fisherman, for your fantasy championships. Another very popular kicker, which has been having some rough weeks over the past couple weeks, that is Harrison Butker here. I like the opportunity. That's really the major reason I'm going for him here against the Denver Broncos. Last time we saw him play the Broncos, he had 11 fantasy points. He looked very strong. very solid. And that was in the time frame too, where he was having these strong 14 fantasy point performances, like against the Chargers and the Rams, where he was looking really solid just a few weeks ago. And I think going up against the Broncos, I talked about how I thought the Chiefs defense was going to be good for a multitude of reasons against the Broncos. I think this offense for the Chiefs is also just going to go bananas against this Broncos team as well. I mean, obviously, the Broncos defense just gave up 51 points, right? It seems that they have gone past the point of no return. I think the Chiefs are going to also come in here with revenge on their mind, with absolute destruction on their mind, because Mahomes looked bad. Mahomes almost lost the game for them against Russell Wilson the last time they played, and I think he is going to want to have a perfect performance, an MVP type of performance, while Jalen Hurts is still recovering from the injury. And all that to be said is that is going to line up opportunities for extra points for our guy Harrison Butker, and a lot of field goal opportunities for our guy Harrison Butker. So I think he is a good play here. He's a very popular kicker, but he is under 50% rostered right now. So you should be able to get him and tie him to the best player in the NFL, in my opinion, Patrick Mahomes. Up next, going with GANO. I had him on my video last week, and he had 14 fantasy points for you against the Minnesota Vikings. Definitely a juicy matchup he had last week. He's got another good one this week against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts just gave up 8 fantasy points to Cameron Dicker. But you know what? Dicker, the kicker, has to also face, the issue of they go for it on every 4th down. So he probably could have had even more points, right? And I think this Giants team is going to do great things against the Indianapolis Colts here in Week 17. A lot more on the line for this Giants team, and a lot more momentum and a positive direction going for this Giants team as opposed to the Colts, right? GANO has looked fantastic on the season for sure in a very consistent way. There's no reason why he should be as low rostered as he is right now. He's only 14% rostered. We need to juice those numbers up here. He has had 14 points in Week 16 against the Minnesota Vikings, and he had 12 fantasy points against the Washington Commanders back in 15. He is one of those few kickers that can get those consistent high juiced up numbers and consistency in trending. That is why he was a top 3 kicker earlier on in the season. I love GANO this week against the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Giants are going to get it done. I think the Giants defense is going to get it done. And I think our guy GANO is going to get it done. The only disclaimer I have with this guy in terms of a concern is monitor the weather. If it does get crazy prior to the game with winds or anything like that, then you might need to pivot. But that, of course, is a disclaimer for all kickers that are going to have some bad weather like we saw last week. Up next, talking about the number 13 kicker on the season, under 10% rostered. We're seeing a lot of kickers here that are widely available, so I really think you guys are going to have a good chance of getting these kickers if you need them. This is Mr. Ryan Succop for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming off of a 15-point fantasy performance against the Arizona Cardinals. I loved him last week. I thought he was going to be in for a good game, and then he did not disappoint, having a massive game where he really put himself back into the conversation for those top kickers. We saw what he was so good at doing, which he was doing in the beginning of the year, and that is just getting it through the uprights at no cost. And now he gets the Carolina Panthers on deck. Last time they played, the Panthers stomped the yard with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He only got 3 fantasy points. He got no opportunities. He was one of their only scores on the board, I believe, and it was just an absolute gross performance from the Tampa Bay organization in general. I talked about it a little bit in the defense video. I think that the Buccaneers are going to win this game. I think they are going to show up for this game. It's going to be a very hard-fought game, and I think Ryan Succop is going to be extremely important for this victory. I definitely see our performance around the 10 fantasy point mark here because, listen, while I do envision the Buccaneers winning and the Buccaneers getting it done, their offense is still a big concern for me, and they are going to need to rely on Ryan Succop like they have all year long, and I think he gets it done for them in the biggest stage to lock up that division and get them into the playoffs. Up next, talking about the young man, Brett Maher from the Dallas Cowboys, one of my favorite kickers earlier on in the season. Guys, he was such an interesting kicker this year. He tore it up in the beginning of the year, and I loved him. I loved everything about him. And then Dak Prescott came back, and he kind of dipped. Well, it looks like he found his footing again in a massive way, guys. He is the number 1 kicker on the season, and he is under 20% rostered. Can we just say that again? He is the #1 kicker on the season and under 20% rostered. He needs to get those numbers juiced up, guys. Just listen to his last 3 games. He had 11 fantasy points against the Houston Texans back in week 14, followed that up with a 12-point fantasy performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then he said, okay, division rivalry, baby, I'm winning it for my team. He had 18 fantasy points against the Philadelphia Eagles last week in that big-time victory. Now he gets the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, you know, the secondary, awful. The run defense is pretty strong. I'm not expecting this to be a close game by any means. Malik Willis is the starting quarterback. I think the Dallas Cowboys defense rips apart that Titans team. But I think Brett Maher is going to get his opportunities. He's obviously going to have the safe floor because I think the Cowboys' implied scoring total is going to have a lot of opportunities for those extra points, obviously. But I think he gets it done here, and I think you've got to stay in the flames with Mr. Brett Maher, the #1 kicker on the season, under 20% rostered, facing the Tennessee Titans in your championship week. We got to do it. We got to play our guy, Brett Maher. Last kicker I want to talk about, under 10% rostered, Robbie Gould. Listen, major argument here is I understand that a lot of you guys are having concerns with these kickers recently because of the weather implications that have been happening. It has been massive wins. Robbie Gould is one of the better kickers this week. He has got a dome matchup with a good opportunity against a team that is very favorable against the kicker position, right? So that's why I think Robbie Gould is a good play here. He had 13 fantasy points against the Washington Commanders last week, where he really got it done. It really was the reason they won that ball game. I mean, obviously that defense kept putting them into a good position, kept putting the ball back in that offense's hands, but Brock Purdy and the boys couldn't really get it done. They couldn't really convert it into a touchdown most times. So Robbie had to finish off those drives. And I think he can do that again this week against the Las Vegas Raiders. And it's not been too far ago. 4 weeks ago against the Miami Dolphins in week 13, he had 18 fantasy points. So he's obviously got that super high ceiling. There has been some inconsistency with him on the year, but I wanted to mention him in this video because if you are a team that is scared about this weather, which is something to seriously take into consideration, I wanted to give you a good pivot option for some of the 6 guys that I mentioned before Robbie Gould, guys. So that has been the must-start kickers. I certainly hope you enjoyed these options. I certainly hope you like these options. I think there will be availability for these guys. But if you have any concerns, any questions, please let me know in the comments so I can help set up your roster ahead of this week. If you need any pivot options too, or if you'd like some other kickers and you want to get my thoughts on it, I'll let you know. Just get in those comments and I will respond. And also, really encourage you to hit that subscribe button and join the Catch fam, join the best community in all of fantasy football. And if you do enjoy this video or any of the other videos we put out there, really appreciate it if you hit that like button, dude. Does mean a ton to the channel. But with all that said, guys, I said at the top, I hope you all have a tremendous New Year's Eve weekend. Get to spend some time with family and friends. And remember, you saw the must-start kickers here at the Catch.